I was in California last week. I walked around a car dealership. Almost every new car on the lot had a $10,000 markup and an $8,000 adjustment for paint protection, tire and wheel, nitrogen in the tires, etch on the catalytic converter, which I guess in California, getting the catalytic converter insured is probably not a bad thing. People do steal those.
So, Russ, are we in a market crash right now?
I'm Russell Richardson, aka RussFlipsWhips, and I'm one of the world's most followed car salesmen on social media, and you're on Behind the Brand with Brian Elliott.
Everyone, welcome to another episode of the show. Russ, welcome.
Thanks for having me, Brian. This is an honor.
My pleasure. I can't wait to dive into this, but I usually ask my guests, how did you get this job?
How did I become a car salesman? Like many people, I did not grow up wanting to be a car salesman. I wasn't in, the first grade saying, I want to be a car salesman when I want to grow up. I wanted to be an astronaut and an NFL player. And I actually had the dream of being an NFL player up until about the ninth grade, where I was 5'10" from sixth grade to ninth grade. And in sixth grade, being 5'10", I was a monster.
Yeah,
you're done. And I never grew an inch more, so that dream just kind of faded away. And my sophomore year of high school, my best friend's dad was a general manager at a car dealership. And my buddies was kind of hyping it up to me. He's like, hey, I wash cars on Saturdays. We're washing Lincolns. They're pretty nice. And he sold me with free lunch on Saturdays. You guys get free lunch on Saturdays and you're paid? Get me a job.
Sign me up. Yeah.
Gets me a job, and I'm washing cars there. And my junior year of high school, the principal calls all of the now going to be seniors into the auditorium at the end of the year. And he says, hey, I want to do this progressive thing. I want to allow all of the seniors, you now juniors next year, the opportunity to leave high school early after fourth period to either work or go to college. And
nice.
I really had zero desire to go to college. So I was like, and this was very low ambitions at the time. I was like, I'm just going to leave school and go wash cars. This is going to be great. Approached the general manager, my friend's father, and he was like, look, dude, if you're going to skip college, that's fine. Your parents are going to kill me if it's to wash cars, though. Mm-hmm. We're going to put you in sales. And I was the youngest salesperson at our dealership, and I was selling cars while in high school. I would go to high school in a full-blown suit, and I would leave high school and go sell cars. And I just ran with it.
Wow, that's impressive. So, I mean, you sort of had the chops, maybe just naturally. Maybe you're born with it.
My mom's a salesperson. My dad's known in our small town as the ultimate storyteller. So I think kind of getting between the two of them and listening to how they talk, I kind of learned how to speak well. And I didn't have the greatest upbringing. My parents were not always around. Was raised by my grandparents, kind of left to fend for myself. So I think I've always had a bit of tenacity to myself. So was never really afraid of anything or anyone. So at 17, 18 years old, ask somebody to buy $100,000 car, wasn't a big deal to me.
Actually, that's very relatable. We have that in common, actually. I get it. So that's amazing, though. So, and I remember sort of that feeling. I still kind of feel it now. I feel like I've got a chip on my shoulder. It's like, all right, no one's going to take care of me. I'm going to take care of me. And so, you do what you feel capable of doing.
Exactly. I try not to have any limiting beliefs,
Yeah.
I've always taken my own path. I bought my first house at 19 years old. I don't know why. I just felt like I needed to just do it. And it was like, at the time, it was a terrible decision. I made like 40 grand, 50 grand, went out and bought a house. But this just kind of makes you rise to the occasion when you take more on, because I didn't have anyone who was going to provide for me.
Yeah, that's so interesting. I maybe want to dive into that a little bit deeper into the pathology there. But the reason I wanted to invite you on is because I'm so impressed with your channel. I love your content on TikTok and Instagram, or wherever you are. I think you're probably on all of it. But I love the way that you present the car industry, automotive industry. The way I feel like I'm getting a huge value out of it, because we sort of talked off camera that this is information arbitrage, right? So it's like there's a lot of information that's I don't know, secret or not well known. And there's like this mystery behind the curtains of what actually happens behind a car dealership. And then on the other side, when the consumer comes, there's also this adversarial relationship, I feel, and maybe you can talk about that a little bit. I'm only saying that because I'm on the other side of the fence, and it's probably just insecurity speaking, but I want to unpack that a little bit and sort of demyth or, myth bust some of these things that we the consumers might be thinking in an effort to help my audience who at some point is going to be in the market for an automobile if they're not there right now. So Russ, are we in a market crash right now?
We're absolutely not in a market crash. I mean, the tariffs, dealers always find a way to win. So these are probably going to help dealers because our used car inventory we have right now that we own for presumably less than what we have them advertised are. Of course, dealers have cars they sell at a loss, but let's just assume the 99% of cars on dealer lots right now we're making money on. So yes, if our new cars do go up in price, you know what happens to all the used cars on our lot? We make a whole lot more money on them because the price of those go up. And people are going to, it's a self-filtering mechanism. People at the end of the day, the average consumer is a payment buyer. What can my payment get me? I want to be $800 a month, and I'm going to buy the car that I think is the nicest and most appropriate for my situation that I can get at $800 a month. Right now, maybe that's a new Lexus. In 3 months, maybe that's a used Ford. But people are just going to buy the cars that they want to buy. And the super high-end cars are almost never affected by the economy. I mean, rich people have money. So if the new Mercedes goes up 30 grand, the really rich guy is still going to buy that new Mercedes. You know, the middle to upper class might feel a little squeezed on this, of course, because those people who do drive those Mercedes might not be willing to go drive a Ford. Me personally, I'm not a status guy. It doesn't mean anything to me. I'll drive any car, anytime, any place. But those people who are kind of stretching to drive cars they can barely afford might not be able to afford these price increases if they do in fact happen. This is all speculation. Who knows? Trump is and this is not political, but a little all over the place with what we're saying we're going to do, but we'll find out April 2nd what really happens.
Yeah, I mean, this is not political either, and whatever side of the fence you're on, I mean, there's announcements happening all the time, and I think all of us who are listening in would probably agree on this, and that is we all want what is best for us. Like, so, if my small business benefits from whatever decisions are being made, like I'm all in.
Yeah.
If Kia decides to buy, steel in bulk, and you're in the Steel City, right? You're in
Yeah.
Pittsburgh. That's gonna be good for Pittsburgh and the residents of Pittsburgh, and so you're gonna cheer that on if Kia wants to do that. And so yeah, okay. Well said. Let's talk a little bit about timing and strategy. So, like, when is the best time to buy a car? Here we are again, a couple of days before the end of the month, but also the end of the quarter. So, is there like this perfect timing and strategy?
So I'm going to hit you with an answer you probably never heard before.
Okay.
And I'll give you like my philosophical answer, then I'll give you like a real statistical number. The best time to buy a car is when you don't need one, because then you're not like pressured to do anything.
Yeah.
And you can really look around. I mean, I sell cars all the time to people who need one, and they make hasty decisions, and they maybe don't take the time to look around and get the best deal because they're like in dire need of a car. So that is like,
Yes.
in my mind, like the best time to look is when you don't need to do anything. I have found in my personal life, regardless of what I'm buying, I usually get great deals. I wasn't even looking for one, but man, it was just a really good deal.
Okay, this is an underrated, really great comment because, well, it wasn't a vehicle. My refrigerator of 10 years died recently. I don't know if you've ever had a fridge die with full of food and all that, but like you got 24 hours to maybe put stuff in a cooler at best. But like you got to replace that fridge pretty fast, or else it's difficult to live without a refrigerator. So yeah, I get it. The urgency of maybe having the need for a car to get to work or get your kids to school. Yeah, that's super good advice.
And there's like, and the reason car buying is so confusing, Brian, is it's really the only negotiation the average consumer does in their life that has so many angles and they have no help. Real estate could be the only one, but you have an agent and there's two agents involved and they're kind of coaching you. A lot of people go into car sales and to buy a car and they're doing it themselves, maybe a little research online, but there's so many factors that would determine the best time to buy a car. Well, let's talk about your trading for a second. When's the best time to trade in your car?
Yeah.
Some would argue it's before the bumper-to-bumper warranty runs out, and the second best time is before it hits 100,000 miles. So that's that whole factor. But back to your original question, Brian, when is the just buy a car? Forget the trade-in, forget the interest rates. It always has and always will be two different times. End of a model year and end of the year. And if you can line those up, you get a crazy good deal. So, for example, this is 2025. At the end of 2025, a lot of brands will have on their lots model year 2025, but they'll also have 2026s. The 2025s are going to have really good rebates, really good interest rates, really good incentives, and it's going to be the end of the year, and dealerships want to hit volume numbers. Almost every dealership internally, because remember, there's two keys to selling cars. You have to please the dealership and the manufacturer, and both want to see units. So you have unit numbers to get to and incentives from the manufacturer. It always almost makes for a good time to buy a car. You could sometimes pair that up with an end of a quarter, of course, but the absolute best time, end of a quarter, pairing that with the end of a model year. But something people don't take into account sometimes, Brian, and I've sold cars just with this one word right here, depreciation. Customer comes in, they want the 2025 deal on a 2026, or this happened last year, so it would be like they want the deal we have on a 2024, but they like the 2025 I have, say the color combo. I go, Brian, are you taking depreciation into calculation here? So yeah, you're going to get an extra $2,000 in rebates and a little bit better of a rate, but what's that 2024 worth when you trade it in 3 years? Because I know you get a new car every 3 years. It kind of makes up for itself. So once again, so many factors into buying a car that the average person isn't even calculating all this. I am always thinking about depreciation when I'm selling or buying a car.
That's a great point. Here's a dumb question. I apologize for asking it, but so when a car dealership buys a car from the OEM, from the manufacturer, is it basically wholesale? So like if I'm looking at MSRP, is it basically, they're buying it for half the cost? How does that work?
No, so I mean, every brand is completely different, and I'm not going to speak like I know how every brand operates. I am familiar with some brands, Lincoln being one of them. We have roughly, let's call it a 5 to 6 markup from invoice. So that's our profit margin that we would make if you would read up
points, 5-6%.
Yeah, 5 to 6% from what you see on MSRP. Minus that is the profit. There's also things, and people think we have like this fake invoice that like, we're just lying and we own it for way less. It's really not true. There are financial incentives to selling cars that the manufacturer gives us that is money, but it's tied to certain things. So I'm not going to get too in the weeds here, but Lincoln gives us a certain percent of money for every new car we sell, but it's strictly for approved advertising. So yes, we do make a little bit of extra money when we sell a car beyond the invoice to MSRP markup, but it's for advertising. It's not like the owner of the dealership is pocketing that and, running away with it. And there's extra money they give us for service. And some dealers have what's called dealer cash. So if you sell this car beyond your invoiced MSRP markup, we're going to give you another $5,000 that you can either keep or pass it on to the customer. But to say it's half would be, a very far stretch. Most cars at most have maybe a 10 to 15% markup, 20% if there's crazy incentives from the manufacturer to move them. But
yeah. And if a vehicle's in demand, like out here in Southern California, everyone wants to drive a Ford Raptor. That's a cool truck. You'd be hard pressed to get that for MSRP. It's going to be 20% over or 50% over. It's going to be in demand.
And I'm not a fan of dealer markups, Brian, but I am a fan of supply and demand. And I'll hit you with this quick little story. I bought a Ford Maverick base.
Okay.
It's extremely popular out where you are. It's actually the complete opposite of the Raptor. It's their front-wheel drive hybrid model that starts at $22,000 brand new. And I kind of thought it was a cool looking truck and it was cheap. So I ordered one, and this was during COVID when they were charging $10,000 over MSRP on a base truck. Why were they doing it? 2 reasons. One, I couldn't believe it. I asked to see the invoice because I was getting employee pricing because I work for Lincoln, so I got employee pricing at the Ford store. I said, I wanted to see how much this truck is marked up. How much margin does Ford give you on the world's cheapest truck? $175 of markup if they sell it for MSRP. That's how much the dealer makes from invoiced MSRP. So if you're the dealership and you have the hottest, one of the fastest selling trucks in the market, some people think it's not a truck, whatever you want to call it, a fast selling vehicle, and you're making $175 a pop, it's pretty realistic to charge more than that and pick up profit.
Yeah, of course. I mean, $175 is nothing.
Mm-hmm.
That's probably what the windshield wipers cost.
Yeah, literally. So, It's supply and demand. Now, some dealers are just crazy and get away with it because people are uneducated. There's a lot of cars that people pay extra fees and extra markup for absolute no reason other than they're uneducated or impulsive, where they could have got that. Like, I was in California last week. I walked around a car dealership. Almost every new car on the lot had a $10,000 markup and an $8,000 adjustment for paint protection, tire and wheel, nitrogen in the tires, etch on the catalytic converter, which I guess in California, getting the catalytic converter insured is probably not a bad thing. People do steal those.
Yeah, yeah. That premium air though, Russ. I mean, come on, it's worth it, right?
Oh yeah, come on, $300 for air, that's nothing. We're giving you that at cost.
Have you seen that like that trend that's going around TikTok where it's usually a young girl who tells her dad that she paid for, like $100 a tire to get her tires inflated
Yeah.
at the gas station, and he's like, "What?" Yep. Well, I
Yeah.
got the premium air,
Yeah.
She's just
I've seen ones where they call it the summer air. I had them take the winter air out and put the summer air in.
yeah, yeah. Of course, she's just pranking her dad because she's not, that gullible. But yeah, it's funny. But we laugh at that, but yet again, we don't know what we don't know, and that's the scariest part of walking into a dealership. I think, at least from the buyer standpoint, is, I go in there kind of guarded, walls up. I'm expecting, all these little darts to be thrown at me that I've got to dodge and duck and and then still, if I can make it through getting something on paper, and I want to walk through that process. When I get to the finance department, then I feel like it's a whole other battle. So, give me some strategies. Like, let's start from like walking on to the lot. Is that even a bad idea? Should I start with calling? Give me some of your.
It really depends where you're at in the car buying process. Most people, research has found consumers do want to feel a car. I mean, it's like, look, I bought a mattress online, bad idea, never doing it again. I will go lay on the mattress. I don't care what the reviews say. And a lot of people feel that way about vehicles. The average consumer does drive the vehicle before purchasing it, whether it's the one they're buying or a similar one. So let's assume you have your mind made up on what you want. Let's just say we're past that part. You want a certain vehicle. Now, how do we get the good deal? Me personally, I am not going to go to a dealership till I have the deal in hand. For me, as a salesperson, I am on such a far other spectrum of other salespeople because I want you to have the deal. Brian, if you're coming to buy a car off me, because I don't take advantage of people, I don't want you to waste my time. So I'm going to give you the numbers. Here's the deal, Brian. If this deal works, let me know. If not, I'm going to spend time with other people. The reason dealers do not want to give you the numbers over the phone or online is because they're going to take advantage of you, or at least try to. And they're going to make it difficult. You cannot give me one good reason to any salesperson that's in a car dealership listening to this that you can't give somebody numbers over the phone. If they're going to shop your deal, it's because your deal wasn't good enough. If they're going to shop your deal, it's because you didn't have the right car. If they're going to shop your deal, it's because you didn't do a good enough job building value. If you were calling me for a car right now, Brian, I can assure you 90% of the time people buy off me because I just dazzle them with my excellence and my expertise on the vehicle and the process. And if somebody can beat my deal by a couple $100, they can have it. It's not worth my time.
Yeah.
But I try to give people the confidence that I'm a professional and this is a great deal. Here's what I'm going to do for you. And if this isn't good enough, I totally understand. Maybe this isn't the right dealership for you. I sold a car last week through text. Guy makes like $1.8 million a year. And he said I was the first salesperson to answer via text, so he bought from me. It wasn't even really, he didn't really want a Lincoln. He was more of a Mercedes BMW guy. But I was the only guy who gave him lease payments through text. He said all the other dealers lied and said their manager wouldn't let them, and it's a conflict of interest. And it's like, all I did was send them lease payments. I'd rather do that than you come drive the car, waste 3 hours of my time and not buy. That guy came in and just signed a check, did his paperwork, and left. It was like the easiest deal ever.
That was a spite buy, but on the positive side.
I get a lot of spite buys.
Forget those other guys. You told me the truth. You gave it to me straight, Russ, so I'm coming to you. That's old-fashioned relationship building right there.
That's step one. And a lot of salespeople don't think they can build relationships over the phone because they have been trained that, the customer comes in, what's the price on this one? Oh, let's talk about that later. Let's drive it first. Make sure you love it. What's my trade worth? I don't know. It's not my job. What's the interest rate? I don't know. That's not my job. My manager does that. Like, we live in a day and age where people appreciate efficiency and access to knowledge. And my customers look at me like Google for Lincoln. If you want to know something about Lincoln, whether it's the rates, the price, the deal, something about my car, you call Russ. And Russ is going to give it the exact answer you can find online. And if he doesn't know it, he's Googling it on his phone and getting it to you quicker than you can find it. But that's step one. Do not go to a dealership that doesn't want to give you numbers over the phone, because I promise you, look, they're all good people. I don't believe that these are bad people, but their style of selling cars is just rigid and it's old school. And like you said, the people listening to this or reading this are businessmen. And if you don't have time to waste in a dealership for 3-4 hours, don't go to those dealerships. Now, the dealerships like mine that are going to say, hey, Brian, appreciate you inquiring. Here's exactly what you could buy this car for. That's the place you want to go. That's the place that's going to respect your time. So I would start with that.
Let me ask nitty gritty, which is, do I need to get that price in writing, like text or email, or can I get it verbally over the phone?
It's tough for me to say because I'm such an honest person. So like my intent or my first reaction is like, just get it verbally. But I'm like, I'm so honest. I think it is best just for a blanket statement to probably get it in writing. I would recommend that probably across the globe, that like get anything said in writing. And if they can't send you an actual proposal, like if it's a typed up email, once again, being a little sketchy, playing games, like if you wanted me to email you numbers, Brian, the answer is going to be this. Absolutely no problem. What's your email? I'm sending those now. Hang on the phone. I want to make sure you get it before I hang up. Like it's just always, how do I make it so simple? Why don't I just make the process easy?
Okay, thanks for the clarification. And then specifically, what am I asking for? Because, usually when you get a proposal, deal memo, whatever it's going to be, there's like 25 things on that list, including the special coating and the floor mats. And so when I just want to ask for just the facts, Russ, like, what am I asking for?
Yeah. So it depends. And we can get into the weeds on this, of course.
Yeah.
But it never hurts to ask for the out the door price. And that is just the bottom line paying cash price. But as a car salesman, as an honest car salesman, when I ask people if they're making payments, they think I'm trying to do like a one over on them, which does happen. So I can understand that. But really, there are incentives to making payments. Like if I said, hey, Brian, are you making payments on the new Aviator? And you're like, I just want your out the door price. We'll talk about payments later. I'd say, well, Brian, there's 2.9 for 36 months and you pick up $1,000 rebate. So that out the door price could be different depending on your situation. Work with me here, man. I'm not trying to take advantage of you.
Yeah.
So you can find that information on your own. It just adds a little bit more legwork to you, what the incentivized programs are on specifically a new car. And there's also certified cars that we could talk about as well to get into the weeds of programs that dealers don't like to talk about on the certified cars. But I would ask for the out the door price with no warranties, no add-ons. Look, you're going to pay a dock fee. Every state has, like in PA, we have a lien fee, a tire fee, a registration fee, a notary fee. There's going to be fees. But just say, I want your best out the door price. And if they give you trouble on that, probably not the right dealership for you. Look, there's dealerships across the country. Shipping a car, it's $1 a mile. So if you want to find a car that's 500 miles away and it's going to be a better deal and you're going to get the car you want, you can have it shipped to you for $500 probably. And if you want to go fly in and drive it back, go ahead, go do that. But don't be afraid to expand your search because it'll just save you time.
I love that. So let's go into double clicking on that for the certified pre-owned and all that. What were you going to say about that?
Yeah, so I sell cars, honestly. So Lincoln advertises certified rates. I should say advertise. They make the dealers aware that, hey, even though this is a used car, we're going to offer a subvented rate. And to explain subvented, that basically means, let's say prime rate right now is 7.4. So Lincoln's offering 5.49 for up to 72 months, which is 2 points below prime roughly. And it's not advertised. Only the dealers know about it. But here's the kicker, Brian. As a dealer, we don't make much money giving you that rate. It's like a $250 flat. Where if we go through some of our other banks and give you the rate at prime, depending on how much you finance, we might make thousands. But me, being honest Russ the car salesman, if I have a customer on a certified car, first words out of my mouth, hey, we got 5.9 for 72 months. Because I would feel awful, Brian. I truly believe this. I think this is my key to success. I would feel awful if I sold you a car, Brian, at 7.79 and I knew I could get you 5.49. Like I just couldn't do it. Or like, what if I seen you a week later and you're like, hey, my friend bought a car for you, Russ, and he got 5.49 and I got 7.79 and he told me you offered him the certified rate with Lincoln. Why didn't you tell me about it? Like but I found out from my customers that people in the local area at our other Lincoln dealers weren't even talking about it, weren't even mentioning it. And I know salespeople all over, they said their managers told them never to mention the certified rates because their managers don't want people to know about them because they're greedy and they want to make money. Now, look, fine line between profit and doing the right thing. Everybody has different morals. For me personally, if there's a rate available, I'd want to know about it personally if I was buying a car. And I would be very upset personally if somebody gave me a rate higher than what I could have got that was advertised. So that's a personal morale issue I've had since the day I've started. If there's rates available, I'm telling people about them.
Yeah, I love that. Thank you. How about so I belong to a credit union. How about if I go get, the financing before and I walk that into the dealership? Should I announce that I'm already pre-qualified, or I'm good for a certain amount? Is that a good strategy negotiating wise, or bad?
It can be. I think with the credit unions, which are great, I've actually personally used the credit union before. There are some credit unions whose rates are unbeatable at certain times, but like right now, I have 0% on Navigators. Your credit union is not giving you 0%. So be willing to hear the dealer out on the rates they have. There's two strategies here. One, as the consumer, you're almost playing games yourself, and these things do take time. So it really depends on your angle and the time you want to allot to this. The very best method to do this is because dealerships, people don't realize, dealerships typically with the credit unions get better rates than the credit union will even give a consumer. Why is that, might you ask? We give them 50, 60, 100, some dealerships 1,000 loans a month. So we're getting wholesale rates from these credit unions and local banks that are typically below market average. And they give us the opportunity to mark the rate up, to make a margin, to make as a way to pick up profit. So back to your question, should you tell a dealership, hey, here's the rate I'm approved for? I personally would, because I'm to the point, and I'd say, here's the rate I'm approved, either beat it or I'm going to go with them. And I would specifically say beat it, not match it. I would say beat it. So you at least put the pressure on them. I know people that do this for a living, actually negotiate car deals, and they like to tell their clients to not tell them what the rate is and tell them you want the very best rate you get up front, and I will make my decision based on the rate you give me. Yes, that is probably a better strategy, but then you're just playing games and it could take a little bit longer in the process. Say your credit union approves you at 5.79 and the dealership gets you approved at 5.09 and they know you're approved at 579. So to make the deal, they can just come out and say, hey, it's 549. Where if you really put the gun to their head, they might come out like, we only got one shot here. Let's just try to get them at the 509. So
yeah. Interesting. Should you sandbag at all? I would guess that customers lie. Of course, interest rates over here are close to 7%. Ridiculous. I remember when I first bought my Mercedes a decade ago, I financed it, I think, at a 2.9.
yeah,
I paid it off at I think I paid it off in 3 years. But interest rates are terrible now. But can you go in and sandbag and lie?
you can, but be careful because nobody's better liars than car salesmen. And we know how to detect lies. I catch customers in lies all the time because, Brian, you say to me, hey, I am approved at this credit union I'm approved at
4%.
Yeah. I'd say, great. Who's your credit union, Brian? We might actually work with them. And then if you don't want to tell me, I'll say something like, oh, come on, Brian. I mean, I'm thinking about buying a car soon. I want to at least know who this is. I want to go through them. So I'll normally find out who your credit union is. Then I pull up their website and pull up their rates. And I'm like, oh, well, Brian, they have advertised on here this rate. And we catch you in your lies all the time. But this is some of the behind the scenes stuff. So look, I'm a really good car salesman. Not everyone is. There's some way better than me too. So I want to make that known. I am not in the top 1% of car salesmen. I just say I'm a good car salesman. But then I go back to the finance manager and I'll be like, hey, this guy Brian said he's a pre-approved at 3.49. I know he's lying, so I'm sure I could bump him.
Yeah.
I
the wrong foot.
Yeah, I think honesty is always the right way to be. But could you lie in hopes of getting a better deal? I've seen it work. I've seen customers lie about trade-in values and what they're getting off on a car. I mean, you can try it, but keep in mind, it always depends on your situation. Like, do you want to have a relationship with this dealership? Because there are customers I have that I would bend over backwards for. If they called me right now, Brian, I would stop this podcast right now because they're that important to me. The people who lied to me and annoyed me and grinded me down to the very last penny, I don't, like, they get the phone call the next day. They're not I'm not going to go back to service and stick my neck out for them to get a loaner. For some people, really important. For others, that's not important at all. So it's just all personal preference on, do you want to do business with this dealership? Do you like the people there? Do you plan on servicing there? Do you feel like they like you? What's the culture like? If you're like, hey, this is transactional, I'm never going to service this car here. I hate these guys. I want to beat them up to the last penny. Go for it. Yeah, throw the grenade. It's just
yeah,
a very situational thing.
I think you get what you give.
Yeah.
How about like, do all the dealers know each other? So like, around my town, the Mercedes dealerships, there's 3 in town, and so does everyone know everyone else's prices, or is that like a myth?
I wouldn't say it's a myth. I mean, very broad question, of course, but I would say within a 50-mile, 60-mile radius, pretty much every dealership owner is either on good terms or bad terms. And either way, they are communicating or seeing each other's deals. I mean, look, we have customers who just lay out a deal in front of us. Here's what they did. Can you beat it? And sometimes we go, man, they really did that deal. Like, and so we're pretty. I can speak of my local area. We know what the other Lincoln dealers are selling their cars for, and we know what we have to do to beat their prices. And I would say that's pretty common in pretty much most areas of the country. There are some places in the country though where the dealerships are kind of on a remote island, kind of lucky. There's some Toyota stores that don't have another Toyota store in a 40-mile radius. That's a gold mine. You can set the prices whatever you want to. You don't got competition, so it's definitely a broad question, but I will say there is some truth to that.
I also heard that there's like some software, whether it's CRM or whatever, that a lot of dealerships use, that they sort of know where they sit in the market. Like even the used car market, they know kind of like what the going rate is, and so they know how to price it a little above market value or a little bit below.
Yeah.
And same thing with new cars. Is that true?
Yeah, so there's a tool for used cars called vAuto. Pretty much every dealership in America uses it. There's some other versions of it that I'm not super familiar with, but when you're pricing the car, it tells you in a 100-mile radius, a 200-mile radius, a 500-mile radius, nationwide, of all the cars with a similar spec, year, make, model, where you are at, and it gives you 2 rankings, a price rank and a value rank. Price rank would mean, are you the cheapest? But being the cheapest compared to 300 others isn't really that important, because it's going to tell you, hey, here's one with 100,000 miles, here's one with 5,000 miles. So you're probably not going to be the cheapest. So a lot of dealers strive to have the best value. So like based on the year, make, and model and miles, you have the best value. And some dealers throw that out the window, because you might say, hey, I only have I have the only white one with brown interior and black wheels. I'm going to make, this is way overpriced. Every website online says it's overpriced, but someone's going to buy it because it's the right color combo.
Yeah, yeah. Or maybe a dealer does what Blockbuster does right around Black Friday. It's like they have one of those 64-inch Sony TVs for like $150, and it's a loss leader strategy. They just want people to get into the store, and maybe there's limited quantity on that particular killer deal. But then when that's all sold out, then they've got this a barrel of fish. They can have their captive audience. So who knows, right? There's lots of strategies.
There's two points to that. One, Brian, you're dating yourself because you said Blockbuster. I think you meant Best Buy.
Oh, I meant Best Buy. Best Buy. That's right. That's funny. You're right.
But absolutely. And look, our dealership does it too. We'll order, and this, look, I'm not saying I necessarily agree or disagree with this model. I'm kind of indifferent because it does work, and no one seems too offended. And we don't do like a crazy advertising scheme where we're like, hey, the payment's $299, and then you come in, it's $899. But we'll order a new car, completely base, and we'll do like a home run deal on it, and we might have 2 of them, and the payment's $499, but pretty much every other one in stock is like $599. And when the people come in to buy those 2 cars, they are what we said they were. And then, if somebody's like, oh, I wanted the sunroof. Okay, well, let me walk you over to this one here. It has the sunroof. It's more money. So that is a common thing a lot of dealers do, advertise the cheapest one, because you're not going to advertise the most expensive one. That's for sure.
Let's hit a little bit more on the going in with a payment in mind instead of the, what are we saying?
Out the door price would be
out the door price versus, it sounds like it's a huge mistake to go in and say, I can afford a $450 a month payment.
Yes, I'll say yes because at the end of the day, they can stretch you on term, they can stretch you on pretty much every variable, your money down. I mean, there's so many ways. So I would focus on the out the door price. There is a high level negotiation tactic that is like so beyond so many people's heads, but you could, if you're really good at math, you can negotiate on payment. And I'll tell you why this works. And this is like some people aren't going to understand this. So many people are saying never negotiate on payment. And stay with me, Brian. You can do this, but you have to be really good at math, really firm on your interest rate, and really firm on your term. If you work the math backwards, so I'm actually really bad at math, so I probably couldn't do this. But you want to buy a $30,000 car, and you know you can get a rate of 5.5%. You want your payment to be $500 a month. I have seen management bend over backwards to make deals for people that we felt they just genuinely couldn't afford the car, but wanted it. So when you're negotiating on a payment like that, and you know you have some lady or guy, it's like, look, dude, 500 a month, and I'm not going longer than 60 months. Yeah, I mean, I've seen the managers just make the deal because like we're not moving this guy. When you negotiate on out the door, and it is probably the preferred method. It's the easiest method. You kind of come off like a jerk a little bit to a lot of car people, and you're insinuating the fact that you're going to pay cash when you ask for the out the door price.
Right.
And so people are like, oh, well, if he can afford 30 grand, he can afford 31 or 32. This guy's rich. He has money. Or if you're like, dude, I only have 500, like not 501, not 502. You have $500 a month, and I refuse to go longer than 60 months. That is a tactical method, but so many people are what we call in the industry laydowns. Laydowns meaning they just like do whatever a car salesman tells them to. So some people go in there and they're like, okay, 500 a month, no more than 60 months. And then I'm like, hey, great news, Brian, 500 a month, 72 months. And you're like, I want to go 60. I'm like, yeah, but what's another year? And then you go, okay, 500 a month. So, you know, you got to be firm when you go in there. But I would probably recommend for the average person to just negotiate on the outdoor price. It requires less effort.
Yeah. And so what is the best or worst length of time to finance a car? Is 72 months bad? Like is 3 years the best? What's the optimal?
So general rule of thumb, if you got to go longer than 60 months, you probably just can't afford it. You just want to afford it.
Yeah.
There's exceptions to the rule. Exceptions to that rule would be somebody's offering you 72 months for 0%, take it. Pay it off early if you want to, but if it's 0%, take it as long as you can get it. If the rate's super low, 1.9, 2.9, arguably 3 and 4.9, if you think you can beat that, take the bank's money, run with it, and reinvest your money. But in a normal scenario, at normal rates that you're not going to be able to reinvest that money over 60 months, you probably can't afford the car. You probably should be buying it. You're going a longer term to get the payment where you want it because you're trying to show off and buy a car that you probably can't afford. That's my rule of thumb. A lot of people who do finances would agree. And you definitely don't want the payment to be, a huge percent of your income.
Yeah. Do you have like a rule of thumb for like figuring out whether or not you can afford it? I mean, a debt to income ratio?
So the banks, I believe, now what the banks are willing to do versus what you should be willing to do are two different things. So when it comes to financing a car, some banks will go up to 20, 25% that the payment of your gross income.
Mm.
I'm sorry. Yeah, gross income.
Yeah, before taxes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which is crazy. But with a good enough credit score, banks will kind of do anything on a car loan. It's very unregulated compared to like a mortgage. Most financial gurus would agree 10% would be like the max.
Mm-hmm. What if I want to buy the company? So my little production company is a S corporation. I think S stands for small corp. Can I buy the company? Can I buy the car with my company, and I can get a worse finance rate if I finance through the dealership?
So if it is not a advertised subvented rate, as we mentioned earlier, meaning like Lincoln, for example, or Mercedes will say, hey, 60 months, 3.9. If you qualify, you qualify. If you can get qualified for that rate, you're just going to get the same rate you would get. Most manufacturers that are advertising these rates don't seclude businesses from that offering. But if you're going to go to the open market, yes, a business is always a higher risk for banks, and you'll most likely pay a higher interest rate on that loan.
Mm-hmm. Is there any benefit then? I mean, I'm just thinking from the business owner standpoint, maybe there's a little bit more of a tax write-off. I was talking to my accountant about this because certain cars qualify I think it's Section 179. Everyone kind of knows it and quotes it. It's the, if your car is over 6,000 pounds, it qualifies for some, extensive write-offs. That apparently, according to my accountant, has changed quite a bit in the last 3 or 4 years, where it used to be like you could write off 100% of it. Now it's down to like 20 or 30% of the write-off, so it's not really worth doing. People are going into, we're staying on Mercedes, buying G-Wagons for like 200 grand and then writing the whole thing off because it's over 6,000 pounds. But apparently that's not a thing anymore.
Yeah, and I'm no tax expert. This is not tax advice, but it's all fine and dandy till you get audited. That's all I have to say on that.
Yeah.
Can you prove to the IRS when they knock on your doorstep that that G-Wagon was used 100% for business? And if it's parked in your driveway, they're going to be really upset with you because, oh, so you drove it to your home? Well, that's primary use right there. So there's some really sketchy accountants out there that will let you do some things. And of course, if you're the person taking advantage of the tax write-offs, you're going to be down for whatever your accountant says. I would be careful because at the end of the day, it's not a one-to-one tax credit, it's a tax deduction. So you're still gonna you still owe money in taxes, you just owe less. I think for a lot of people it's just they really want a nice car and that is their justification.
Yeah. Yeah.
Which is okay. Hey, look, I sell really nice cars to people who want write-offs. It's okay.
Yeah.
It's not for me. I'd rather invest that back into my business or my social media brand or anything that I'm doing. But that's just, I'm on a different mission than a lot of people. Some people just want that nice car that they can show their neighbors and feel good about themselves, which is okay. That's what I do for a living, is help people make that come true.
Yeah. Let's talk about hidden fees and add-ons. What should we be watching out for?
So, and here's where you got to be careful. Of course, you want to get the deal in your email or text it to you, and you want to make sure there's nothing crazy in there, and don't act like you know what you're officially doing when buying a car. I have some people try to negotiate the doc fee. A documentation fee is a standard fee across all dealerships. It's non-negotiable in most parts of the world or the country. Some states it is, but most states it is what it is. So don't even try to negotiate that. Figure out, and with access to modern technology, you could ask ChatGPT. It'll give you the answer in 3 seconds. What are the normal fees at a dealership? Because there's going to be fees, and you're going to pay them, and there's going to be tax. Look out for fees like this, though. Reconditioning fee. That's where the dealership is charging you what they spent to recondition the fee. I'm aware of a dealership in California that prices their cars very cheap, cheaper than any other dealership. When you go to go buy it, they add on $4,000 because they're like, well, we changed the oil, and we detailed it, and we put new tires on. Yeah. So fees like a reconditioning fee. Some dealerships try to charge you a double doc fee. So they'll call the doc fee 100% legitimate. Then there'll be like a documentation prep fee. So that's an additional fee, a cleaning fee, an advertising fee. There's a bunch of fake fees. And what's most important is identifying these fees on the official paperwork. So, all fine and dandy. You get a deal with the salesperson, shake his hand. But a lot of people mess up when they go back to that dreaded finance office where some things can change from what you were told to what is actually you're about to sign. And I do always recommend reading that, because if it is not what you thought it was and you leave there, in almost every state in America, you leave, it's a contract. You sign that is your car, you own it, and you have a payment due in 45 days on it. Good luck.
Yeah. Let's go back to interest rates for a second, because I just remembered something that I heard you say that was super valuable, I thought. And it's this issue of sort of illegal tactics by certain dealerships by tying like a better interest rate. Do you know what I'm talking about?
Yes. So this is called tying product to the rate. This is federally illegal in every state. This is where, and I did not think this was a common thing. I knew people did it. The outreach I have gotten from this TikTok I made, where I kind of, just made people aware of this thing to look out for. So many people have experienced this. It just fell for it. Basically, let's say, Brian, you're buying a car from me, and you say, we're going to send your credit to 3 different banks because we don't have an advertised rate to talk about. You don't have your credit. You're like, let's just see what rate we can get you. And we send it to bank A, B, and C. And bank B is 7.8%, and bank C is 11%. So, and then you would figure out let's just say rough math, payment A with lower rate is $450 and payment B is $550. you would come out, and then the finance manager or the salesperson or manager will come out and be like, hey, Brian, we got 2 approvals. Approval B, the rate's a lot higher. It's 11%. The payment's $550. But at approval A, they approved you at a much lower rate. The payment's $450, but this bank does require you to get the warranty and the gap protection and the tire and wheel to protect your investment. That's why they're giving you a lower rate. Does that make sense, Brian? You give you a lower rate because you're willing to protect your investment. So on approval A, your payment's actually the same. It's still $550. So I mean, the choice is yours, Brian. You can either do approval B at the higher rate, or you can get all this, stuff that's going to protect your investment and get a lower interest rate. Which one would you rather go with? And anyone who thinks they're being serious and isn't lying is going to take the approval with the warranty and all the gap insurance and the lower rate, because if you think they're being truthful, that makes sense. They actually make sense when you pitch it to somebody like that. Like, hey, the banks will give you a lower rate because you're protecting your it's a pretty good lie.
Yeah, the logic seems there on the surface, but yeah, it's totally illegal.
Totally illegal for any situation ever, for any loan, for them to say you can get a lower rate if you do XYZ. Now, with the exception, credit unions do offer, if you do auto payroll, they'll give you a 1/4 point deduction, but it's only, I should clarify, it's only if they say you have to buy something extra.
Yeah, so the things that you're talking about, these add-ons that we should be, watching out for in the first place.
Yep, and it's not, these things have value to them. I've bought warranties before. Tire and wheel, I've seen it save a customer $3,000 before on an $800 tire and wheel package, but never buy something because someone says you have to. I mean, that's just, I would never buy something because someone said I had to. I'd say you're out of your mind. And I think these dealerships that do this need to look themselves in the mirror and be like, well, I want treated like this when I'm buying a car.
Yeah. How about an alarm system? I mean, is that something that comes standard, or can you have them take it off?
They can absolutely take it off. I mean, most alarm systems that dealerships are charging $1,500 for cost them $125, $150, $300 on the high end, depending on the product. Pure profit for them. There is some value to it. I mean, look, where I'm from, and I hope no one listening to this lives near me, we don't lock our cars. This is not a thing. We're in a safe neighborhood, super safe area. I've never heard of somebody getting their car stolen once in my life in this area. Where you're from, California, seems to be a little bit more of a problem. So could there be some value in the tracker? Of course, but most new cars have built-in GPS into them, meaning there's an app on your phone and you can see where your car's at.
Yeah. Yeah. So you just need to look at the add-ons carefully, choose wisely if it's really worth it. If it's not, ask them to undo it.
Yeah, do your research on the product. I mean, this is why buying a car is so confusing. You're not just negotiating the car, you're negotiating the car price, the trade-in value, the interest rate, and the add-ons. There's 4 different things you're negotiating at one time, which is why a lot of people get tripped up. You think you did good on the car and the trade, and you got screwed on the rate. You think you did good on the car and the rate, you got screwed on the trade. You think you did good on the car, the trade, and the rate, and then you bought everything in the back that you didn't really need.
Yeah. How about new versus pre-owned? I know it's like apples and oranges. So they're 2 different things, a lot of motivations. It's one of those loaded questions, but how do you see it? I mean, I bought my Mercedes certified pre-owned. It was 2 years old when I bought it. It was a 2013. I bought it in 2015. Had low mileage. It was super clean, and I got a great deal on it. It had depreciated a couple of years. I really bought it because I love the body style. I just was so attracted to the way it looked and just the whole package, but talk about that for a second.
There's a couple of reasons someone will buy a new car over what I call previously enjoyed car. Some people call it used. I say previously enjoyed. One, you don't want somebody else's problems. You just want a fresh new car smell, and that's okay. 2, you got so much money, Brian, would you buy a used pair of shoes?
Sure.
You know what I mean? So it's you have so much money, it's not even a thought to buy a used car.
Yeah.
And some people just like to put on an act. And, I bought the new car. And you could also argue that in certain circumstances, cars aren't available used. Like a new model, I could speak to the new Lincoln Nautilus. It just came out in about the last year. There's really no used ones for sale. They just came out. And if you really want that new car, and it has a 5-foot screen in it, and it's super cool, super, super highly rated, you're going to have to buy that new car or wait. In America, we don't like to wait, so we just go buy the new car. So
yeah,
I'm a big proponent of buying pre-owned, certified pre-owned. From a financial standpoint, it always makes more sense in the long run.
Yeah.
But if you're gonna buy a car and ride it till the wheels fall off, I don't think it matters if you save some money buying it used or new. It just becomes a personal preference at that point, you
I
know?
gotcha. I gotcha.
And you can buy a used car and ride till the wheels fall off or fall off. It's just personal preference.
Yeah. Well, we talked about this off camera. I bought a used Lincoln Navigator back in the day, 2002. I think it was a year 2000 model that I bought in 2003. Maybe it was 2003. No, you know what? It was 2004. It's been about 20 years, 21 years. I bought that thing. And I had a young family, and we were driving a little Honda Civic around that I bought new, and we had 3 kids in the back, with a car seat in the middle. And there was just so much fighting in the back of that little Honda Civic. I was like, screw it. We're going to buy an SUV, because I was hell bent on not getting a like
Minivan.
minivan. I was like, I'm not the minivan guy. So I went Lincoln Navigator and found a pretty good deal, low mileage. Anyway, so yeah, you could find stuff out there. Uh, the used market is crazy right now. Weigh in on this a little bit. I mean, I look at companies like Carvana, and I just feel like they are like circling the the drain. I mean, Carvana to me seems like they're on their way out. What are your thoughts on that?
It's it's tough because they do have a really good business model on the surface, you know?
Yeah.
And it does work. I mean, I know people have bought it and love them,
Yeah.
but it's kinda one of those things like Uber, like, you gotta make money to stay in business. How much longer can you piggyback off of investors and all this shareholder money, to be sustainable? Because what they do is they pay if you look at the auctions, they're buying more cars than anybody. They're sourcing cars from people selling their cars down. They're paying more than anybody, and some of their cars, they make a lot of money, some of their cars, they don't make a lot of money.
Yeah.
And
Well, I feel like timing sort of got them, because they're having to buy used cars at a higher premium than ever before. It seems like the used car market is just booming.
and I personally, in my small little circle here in Western PA, know a handful of people that completely ripped off Carvana because it's all remote. "Hey, here's what my car's worth," on an online little chat box, type in, "Phil, is there anything wrong with it?" Of course, people are gonna say no. And these truck drivers don't even check them out. You come to my store to trade in your car, we're gonna at least look at it. We're gonna at least drive it.
Oh, I see. Okay.
We're gonna say, "Hey, it's rattling. Hey, you didn't tell us there was rust on it. Hey, it needs tires. You said online that they were all brand new."
Yeah.
So, I mean, we have a layer of protection. So, although we can't move at the speeds Carvana can, we also can't make the mistakes at the speed they're making them either.
Yeah, you didn't tell me a family of raccoons was living in it for
Yeah.
us.
Or,
So
hey, it smelt bad. Sometimes people's cars just smell bad.
yeah, yeah, for sure. Uh, well, and also it seems like, uh, well, so what's the problem that Carvana was seeking to solve? And I think mainly it was to take the pain and agony and stress of walking into a car dealership. It was like,
Yeah.
hey, it's one price, it's delivered to your doorstep, it's digital, it's all the things that, you know, young people like to do these days, which is not talk to humans, text it in, and then they get it in their driveway, kind of like an Amazon purchase. But I feel like dealerships could just replicate that process now. They can buy up the used car market too, and kind of replicate the thing, but deliver it faster. They wouldn't have like all the delays with the fees and license and all the things that was getting Carvana hung up and getting people upset with them. And maybe even because there's so many humans at the dealership, have a better experience. Do you agree with that?
I agree. It sounds so simple, but like so hard to implement. So many dealers are stuck in their ways. And to Carvana's point, they'll take your trade in sight unseen. There are some dealers who will not do that. They will not finalize the deal till you come in and the old school used car manager takes it around the block and drives it. And look, that is a layer of protection. I even struggle with that at my dealership. Like sometimes I want to do a deal remote and I want to have somebody's car shipped to them and they're traded shipped to us, which means at the end of the day, we are taking a gamble on their trade-in. But I always say to my managers, I go, they're taking a gamble on our car. They didn't drive our car. Now we know it's nice and they probably think theirs is nice. Like
Yeah. Yeah. Okay, so we've covered a lot of ground. I love this. Are there any other sort of insider secrets or red flags I should be aware of?
I would just make sure you're doing your homework, I really think the average consumer, once you know what car you want, until you know what car you want, like, nobody can help you. Like, so you gotta figure out what car you want. Once you have it not dialed into 1 or 2, just make sure you're negotiating all the points of the car buying process. Figure out what a fair price is for the car. Figure out what a fair price for your trade-in is. Now be realistic, and I highly, highly, highly recommend not using Kelley Blue Book. As someone in the business, everyone says use Kelley Blue Book. Don't use Kelley Blue Book. It gives you a range of a number they're not committed to. It's such a great business model. "Hey, we're gonna tell you what your car's worth, but we're not gonna buy it." You know?
Yeah.
Use Carvana, use CarMax, have the dealership look at it, use the only I always say this, a car's only worth what someone's willing to pay for it, and if that person's not willing to pay for it, I don't want their opinion.
Yeah, yeah, and to your point, it's what the market will bear. So, and the variable of that is how the market ebbs and flows. So, like right now, it's probably, I'm guessing, tell me if I'm wrong, a really great time to sell your used car.
Yeah, and in a week and a half, it might be an even better time, or it could be come down a little bit. You figure if Mercedes gets hit with a 25% tariff, and you just bought a Mercedes last week, or you have an older Mercedes like you, Brian, your Mercedes, I'm not gonna say it's gonna go 25% value, but it's gonna go up.
Yeah, because there's going to be less people that can afford or want to pay the premium for the new car. So they're going to be looking downstream for the used car. That's opportunity for me, the seller, if I got something used.
Absolutely. Now the trade-off is, though, you're gonna go buy a car that's marked up.
Yeah. Or I could go, buy American, or I could buy another used car,
You could take a gamble and go buy a Mercedes and just keep yours and see what happens in 2 weeks.
that's true. That's true.
Yep.
But, it's great advice about searching, the country for the best deal. Because I had not even thought about it. I thought that maybe shipping something my way was totally cost prohibitive, is not even an option. But $1 a mile is pretty reasonable. I mean,
That's a general rule of thumb, and I know shippers that do it for less than that. I mean, I got a vehicle shipped from Texas to Pittsburgh for, like, $600 flat.
yeah, that's crazy. How long did it take?
Like, from the phone call to it showing up, maybe 4 days.
Oh, that's ridiculously good.
Yeah.
Uh, Talk a little bit about your strategy. I know you get hired or you get asked to speak. You're out in Southern California, probably speaking to dealerships. Talk about your strategy, and what is it that's so like groundbreaking and compelling to some of these people that bring you out?
Yeah, so I'm really the first car salesman to ever be, and I hate to use the word famous. Well, take it what you want with this. I have 1.5 million followers across all social media. Is that famous? Probably not. I can walk into a restaurant and nobody knows me. I've walked into Texas Day Brazil, and every single waiter and waitress like knew exactly who I was, and like was like
Yep.
bringing me the filet mignon and ribeye all night.
You're a hero though to a lot of people because you tell the truth. I mean, it blows my mind actually that more car salespeople don't latch on to this strategy of truth telling, because I think it is the obstacle, right? And if you just eliminate that, that's what we're all looking for. Is we just want an inside guy or gal who tells us the truth, who tells us what to watch out for. Do this, don't do that.
Mhm.
Ask for the out the door price. Then you have my full faith and trust, and I'm just going to keep referring my friends to you. And like, everyone wants a person on the inside, whether that's a plumber who
Yep.
does good work, or your mechanic, or your doctor, or your video production guy. Like
Yeah.
everyone wants truth tellers.
And they want someone they know, like, and trust. And my strategy on social media has always been to build a brand that I ask for nothing in return. 90% of the time, I'm just getting people to know, like, and trust me. And my analogy when I'm training these dealers, which I was doing training in Southern California, Wisconsin, Chicago, with some progressive dealers who want the next Russ Flips Whips. They want one of their sales guys to mold into what I am. I say this to them because people don't understand content. I say, if you were watching TV and it was 90% ads and 10% entertainment, would you watch it? And no, I would not. I wouldn't watch TV shows 90% ads. Okay, well, let me ask this. What if it was 50% ads? Half of it. Half of a YouTube video was ads. Would you watch it? No. So our content, it needs to be 90% value, 10% ads. If you watch my content, I dare you to go find where I really ask people to ever buy a car from me. I really don't.
Yeah, and to be honest, I didn't even really clearly understand that you were a salesman.
Yeah.
Maybe you're an advocate, or some of these people, they have a service where they will help negotiate car deals for you. It wasn't real clear, which is actually a good thing.
Yeah, I try to build a brand bigger than myself because I give so much that when I do ask in return, even an Instagram story, like, "Hey, this car's for sale, come buy it." People listen. 'Cause people listen because I give so much value, and I think, like, I'm going to Australia for a month next month. I'm going there for a whole month to teach a large dealer group that has kinda recognized what I've done, and they're on board, and they wanna learn how to teach their guys how to do what I do.
That's pretty cool. And so your dealership, the person the GM is flexible with that.
The owner of my dealership, Mr. Biondi, he's 70 years old. He's also like my best friend. And I couldn't ask to be in a better situation. If I worked for a big conglomerate dealer group where they sold 10,000 cars a month across all 25 stores, they'd say, "Russ, you're fired. We don't need you." And I'm not saying that Biondi needs me, but it is a very give and take relationship. I give a lot of value to them. I've driven sales to the store when I'm not even there. People come in and ask for me. We get phone calls. We get all these perks. And he has flat out told me he wants me to chase my dreams in life. And if I want to do that while working at his store, great. And he'll always support me in everything I do. And I'll always have a job there.
That's awesome. Are you monetizing beyond selling cars? Like, are you doing brand deals and other stuff with your content? I see it looks like Hermosi's book behind you, $1 million deals.
Yeah.
Yeah, $100 million deals.
Yeah.
I had
So,
Alex on my podcast. He's a good dude.
yeah, I don't know him, but I do love everything he puts out. Such great business advice. I have no problem. I think it's very good in today's day and age to be transparent. I make significantly more money from social media than selling cars, and I sell a lot of cars.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So I am doing brand deals. I'm doing engagements. People are paying me for webinars, for trainings. I mean, there's a lot of ways to monetize this. I'm doing my own social media course, which I do think courses are a little cliche, but I get asked for it so much that I should say I just made one. It took me 3 months to make it, but I did make one.
Let me ask a content creator question, which is, how do you balance the brand deals on your channel? Because you've got all this value that they're giving, and sometimes when there's a pattern interrupt with like hey, this is a sponsored deal, does that live on a different channel? How do you handle that, and what's the distribution look like?
Yeah. So when it comes to the brand deals, I do try to make sure that the brand is aligned with what I know, like, and trust and believe in. So
Yeah.
every brand I've ever done, with the exception of one, which or two, I've did a brand deal with Febreze and Arby's, which I just thought were funny. As a car salesman, like Arby's wanted me to. Okay, so like, whatever. Um, I'm very good at, coming up with creative satirical videos that kinda, like, even if you know it's an ad, you might watch just because it's funny.
Mm.
Very rarely is my brand deal just like, "Hey, guys, I wanted to take a moment to introduce to you Cars.com." Cars.com is the premier leader in vehicle, search, and if you're looking to buy a car, go to Cars. Like, they're always, like, they're funny. Like, I literally did one for Cars.com where I, like, made fun of their competition, and, like, they
Yeah.
were totally down for it. Like, people were commenting, like, "Wow, Russ really went," like, the consumers and people buying this product, like, enjoyed the jokes in the ad. So and it's good brand awareness for the companies. They get a bunch of earned media value from it. We're sending a bunch of traffic their way. So
Yeah.
it's really a win-win, and it sometimes helps me come up with content ideas when I get stuck. Like, I'm like, "All right, well, I gotta come up with one for this brand, so let's get thinking here."
So this series is called Behind the Brand. We talk a lot about brands here. Let me ask you a two-part question, which is, what is a brand? And I've asked like 500 of the smartest people, including Alex Ramosi and others, what a brand is, and got their answer. And then the second part of that will be like, what is the Russ Flips brand?
What is a brand? That's a great question. I don't know if I've ever really thought that one out. I would say a brand is just something that's easily recognizable at a glance. I can look at Coke, even if it didn't say Coke, I said it's Coke. I can look at the Pepsi logo, even if it didn't say Pepsi on it, and that's a brand, something that's easily recognizable. So you look at RussFlipsWhips, the second I take these glasses off, I am not recognizable. This is not my brand. And I
Yes.
know that for a fact because sometimes, and I don't know if people who are listening, they won't be able to see this, but when I go out in public and I really don't want to be recognized, I was in Orlando and I really did get recognized enough that it was overwhelming. I put my sunglasses on, not one person recognized me.
Ah,
Not
yeah.
one person recognized me with my sunglasses. So my glasses are a part of my brand. The way I look, the way I do my hair is my brand. I've been buying this exact same pair of glasses for the last 3 years It's my brand. It makes me easily recognizable. I get this haircut the exact same way. That's my brand. What is the Russ Flips Whips brand? The Russ Flips Whips brand is the guy that is, I don't want to say single-handedly, but one of the few that are actually trying to change the retail automotive industry for the better. And I think I will go down in history of somebody who did a very good job at doing that. And I think 20 years from now, people will be talking, you're going to bring up automotive, and your retail automotive, of course, buying a car, and you're going to bring up Russ Flips Whips. And I think I'm doing it in a way where if you asked me who the world's best car salesman is, I'd say Joe Girard. And you're probably like, who the hell's Joe Girard? Or I'd say Ollie Rita. And you say, who the hell's Ollie Rita? Both those guys average over 150 cars a month, but nobody knows who they are.
Wow.
Where I am doing this on a scale where I'm being reached globally and really trying to make a big impact on the industry, not just for dealerships, but for consumers also.
I love that. I'll just chime in too. Some of the things that I've heard about what a brand is. A brand is it's a shorthand for what you stand for. So if you think of like a James Bond movie, and another one's going to come out here, in the next year or two, I'm sure. But before we even see the trailer, before we even know who's cast in it, you sort of already know what to expect with James Bond movie, right? Because the brand, there's going to be, a little shaken, not stirred. There's going to be some hot cars, fast cars. There's going to be some attractive people. Probably going to be some violence. But the hero, James Bond, will prevail over the villain. And that's sort of, you already know what you're going to get before you get it. And I think that's how branding works. It also, you mentioned the Pepsi logo or Coca-Cola, which is like the bottle is very distinct, right? They designed that. And that's sort of, I think, in the Smithsonian because it's so iconic
Yeah.
and recognizable as the bottle itself, the packaging. But like a brand is distinct. And so my mentor, Seth Godin, he gave you this great example. He said, Brian, people are willing to wait in line or pay a premium for a brand. That's why, when I go to Costco and I want to buy ibuprofen, I've got Advil, the little blue headache medicine or whatever that is on the left, and that's a certain price. Let's say it's, $10 a bottle. Then I have the little brown ibuprofen thing, and it's like $4.99. So it's quite a bit different. So is there a difference between the Advil brand and ibuprofen? No, they do the exact same thing.
Right.
And so in that case, I am not willing to pay the premium, and I'll just buy the other because it doesn't matter. And so the problem with, even if you think you have a brand like Advil, you don't because you're not distinct. You're not different enough. And I think a mistake a lot of these so-called brands or people with personal brands, even, we can extend it to that.
Yeah.
The mistake they make is they say that we're better. And, OEMs are notorious for this. They'll say, our engine has, 500 horsepower. And then the next one will come out, well, we have 532, so we're better. Or, maybe there's better gas mileage or, carbon fiber. But the reality is, at least in the consumer's mind, if you're not different, then you're the same. And if you're the same, you're not distinct. And if you're not distinct, it's going to be sorted by price. Right. And I'm just going to buy the cheapest one because there's no difference. He said, close your eyes and imagine if Nike built a hotel. Could you imagine what that looks like and smells like and feels like, the amenities that they would have? You kind of can, right? But like now imagine if Hyatt designed a running shoe. You're kind of like, yeah, not so much. And so, brands like Hyatt or Marriott or Hilton, these are so-called brands, but they're not distinct. And so when they're not distinct, you run the risk, the danger of, again, people on the internet sorting by price. And, I understand Marriott's strategy is, hey, wherever I can throw a stick, I want to hit a Marriott. So it's about convenience and ubiquity and even dominance. And they have a certain culture. I mean, I'm a Marriott Bonvoy member, so I'm not throwing them under the bus. But I would argue that they do not have a brand or a strong brand.
No, I don't even know what their logo is.
They're not distinct. And if you go into the lobby and you look down at the carpet or around the walls, you can't tell where you're at. And so that's one way to know whether or not you've got a brand or even a personal brand, is if you're distinct, if it's a shorthand for what you stand for. And as long as you kind of bring it back full circle to your amazing personal brand, if you walk the talk, like if the chatter that you're saying lines up with your actions, then you're going to have huge success. And I think that's why you've been so successful, is because you walk the talk. If you say one thing, like, hey, we're the best, we're the best, world's best coffee, and you go in there and there's like dirt on the ground and cigarette butts outside, and part of the sign is like half lit, you're gonna kind of be like, yeah, this doesn't really line up, this doesn't really track, and so people call BS on you.
I mean, we were just sitting back, chopping it up, reminiscing about the good old days and all that. Tracking my roots, where I came from.